Hello and welcome back to the channel. So this is a bit of an impromptu video that I'm doing today. It's Sunday the 7th of December and this little video is just going to explain about what evergreens I use in the garden to really fill up the borders to give some structure in the kind of winter time. I have done some other videos on evergreens, so it's worth checking those out. But basically with my tropical style garden down here in Hampshire, one of the key plants that is obviously my favourite plant is palms. So I have a variety of different palms here. So I've got a lot of fan palms, and I've also got a few feather palms like this Butea here. So other plants that I use with them is things like Phormiums are a really good option. As you can see here, these ones are really colourful with lots of pinks and yellows and browns, and they really help to, on quite a dull wet day like we have here today, they really help to bring that sense of colour and interest to the garden when everything is either chopped back to the floor or it's completely green. Over here you can see the two different types of Phormiums which I have here. So there's a standard kind of brown one here, and then you've got the green one at the back, which is a Tanax variety, which generally grow a lot bigger than other Phormiums. So you're looking at kind of 2 to 3 meters on those, whereas a lot of the other Phormiums like we have over here, again really colourful and everything, a lot of the other varieties are about 1 meter tall. Now at the moment you can see that I have left up things like the goldenrod in the background there, and we have these cannas which have obviously been hit by the first frost. But again, nearby we have Phormium there, which just gives a little bit of interest during that kind of winter period. Also, leaving up some of the things like the goldenrod can really be interesting in the frost, as you can get some really interesting kind of frost effects on top of the actual seed pods. And I will basically leave these up until the frost and the wind and everything batters them, and then they basically get chopped down. So euphorbias are another group of plants which are really useful to use. Here we have a euphorbia, I think it's John Phillips, honey spurge it's also known as, and this is a particularly big variety and it's got these really interesting long leaves on there. They are all super hardy, and I'll show you some other varieties that I have in the garden. Here we have a Wolfenii, which is a great variety with a kind of silvery bluey green foliage to it. It gets about 1 meter tall and it will fill in this space nicely here. For people that like a more variegated foliage, here we have, I think it's glacial blue it's called, and it's a really good euphorbia, but it only gets to about 60 centimeters in height, so it's pretty good for the front of this border here. And this has recently been put in, and it's basically to break up a lot of this. Here is the Geranium Johnson Blue, which I had a massive kind of area of here, and it's just to break that up a little bit to give a bit more interest in winter, and effectively the geranium will come up around the euphorbia, so to still give the interesting effect on there. So on this side of the border we have a Mahonia soft caress, which has this really nice evergreen sort of feathery foliage which really matches in well with all the palms and everything like that. And just behind it here we have a Cornus midwinter fire. Now in the summer these can look quite boring, they're just very understated, but at this time of year you can really see the stems with a kind of fiery effect to them, and they will look good all the way through the kind of autumn into the springtime. And obviously they lose their leaves, but great for winter interest. Obviously bamboos are another option as well. Just make sure you put bamboo barriers in the ground, which are available from quite a few different shops, but you can get them online if you can't find them in your local garden centre. Here we have a Philostachys nigra, which is the black bamboo, and yeah, really good evergreen foliage on there, and you've got the black stems as well, which just create more interest. Another set of plants which are really useful for the evergreen garden is the Cordyline. This is Cordyline Red Star, and this basically creates a really interesting contrasting foliage. I've planted them here in a group of 3, and they will grow up to around 1.5 meters tall, and they'll just be underneath the canopy of this tree. Other varieties available, we have Passadoble, which is a darker pink variety, gets to about 1 meter tall eventually, frost hardy to about -5, and it has this really interesting sort of pinky purple coloration. This one here is Pink Passion, which is very, very similar to the one we've just seen, but it does have more pink than purple in the foliage there. And here we have Charlie Boy, which is one of my favourite varieties, as it's got, again, really good pinks and reds and purples in the coloration. Now you can plant these in borders like those Red Star at the front of the house, but they also look fantastic in pots. You can see here that I have put 2 either side of the pond. This one's Magic Star, and it has a really nice funky kind of red centre, and the rest of it looks like Torbay Dazzler, which is the variegated green and cream in colour. Another group of plants to look out for is the Fatsias. So this is Fatsia polycarpa, which this one can take a bit more sun than the normal varieties, which are more shady plants. So the normal variety is Fatsia japonica, which is this one over here. And the main difference is this one has a very glossy leaf to it, whereas the other one is more matte in coloration. There's also spider's web available, which is this one here. And then just over on this side, you have the variegated version, which has just got the cream in sort of patches on the foliage. So in the back garden here, you can see where I've used yuccas, which are very similar to Cordyline, but the yuccas tend to get a bit bigger. This one is I think Gloriosa over here, but you can see with yuccas there is some really bright coloured ones, quite different coloration to the Cordylines, and you can see here a very big group, big multi-stem group in there. Again, really useful with that bluey green foliage, and looks absolutely fantastic in the winter time. And you can see here with the finer leaves here, we have the Yucca rostrata, and just behind it there, the slightly less blue, I would say, is the Thompsonia, but very similar leaves. And planted in a 3 here, you can really see the effect that you can create in the winter here. In this border as well, you can also see the very big purple Phormium here, and there's another Tanax in the back there, which is the green version. So you see in the tropical style garden, you've got all these sort of linear type leaves as well. As we pan around, you can see the different types of palms, the contrast of the Braha Amata there and the bog standard. Trachycarpus fortunei. But even though it is a kind of standard plant, what a fantastic plant it is, and very easy to grow. -15 it can go to quite easily, I would say. Very little damage, so well worth putting in the garden. You can see really in all of these borders in the back garden, you've got the repeat planting with the euphorbias, the Phormiums, but we have some lilyops, I think it is, this like grass like plant here that creeps around. And even when you look through here, we have Phlomis, a low grown Phlomis, which covers the ground here, with the Shephra towaniana, which is just sort of poking up there in the middle. But brilliant ground cover for winter time. And don't forget ferns as well. Ferns are a really good option. You can see here we have the Saracocca, no, the Asplenium, sorry, fern, which is the hart's tongue fern, the more solid leaf, and some other types of ferns as well in the background. And you can see a whole carpet of vegetation even in the winter time. So when your shrubs above it are bare, you've still got interest in the garden. Grasses are another good option. We have a Carex, I think it's Evergold down here, a bushy grass, planted kind of 3 or 4 of these in a group, and you can see where they've really filling in nicely. Another plant which is London Pride, which is a type of Saxifraga. You can see here evergreen, even with frost down to -5, -6, you can see the garden is looking really, really good and interesting, which is really what you want from a tropical style garden in the winter time. Through the walkway here, you can see I still have a few palms in pots, which are good to kind of move around. Which is quite handy. You can put them on the patio in the winter time so that you can see them from the back door really well. You can see down here we have Epimedium, which has stayed green. It's protected from the tree above it. And Begina, which although is quite a standard kind of plant, really useful as ground cover in the tropical style garden. This is a native iris. Could be considered a little bit boring, but actually as a group there, looks really clean and tidy at this time of year. And Daphnes is another good option. We have a Daphne here, variegated one, next to really dark coloured Phormium, really purpley, almost black leaves. And around the pond area, you can see I've got some sago palms here, which are in pots, always look good in winter. And I will move those inside only when it's exceptionally cold. See more ferns around and some bigger Mahonia soft caress. And some of the plants here, you can see the Xanthodecia, which has been protected from the shrub above. We've been down to -3, and that Xanthodecia has only had a few leaves kind of disintegrate with the frost. Finally, we've got my display outside my back gate here. So we have a couple of Felix canariensis palms, the big feather palms. These have been down to -3. They're not showing any real leaf damage at the moment, which is good news. And another sort of set of plants which can be used in the winter time, you've got agaves, which you can see here is a huge agave americana. I think it's an alba, something alba. Really interesting plant, and providing you keep them relatively dry. You can put a cover over them, keep them in a pot, move them inside, and unless a lot of the agaves you find pretty good to about -5 on most of them. Some of them are good for -10. So you just have to work out really what your lower temperatures are going to be in your garden. And if you say you had a load of agaves planted out in the ground to sort of -10, you probably just need to cover them to keep the excess rain off of them. And then it means that you don't have to keep moving them around. Or if they're -5, you can just move them in on the coldest of nights and they will be good for the next season. So just a final thought here. We've had a lot of rain recently and a lot of high winds, and as you can see, the garden still looks pretty interesting. Very dark and gloomy day today, but you can see that with some evergreen planting in the garden, you can really raise the interest that you can create in the garden and create some really interesting contrasts with the purples, the greens, the kind of black foliage, and variegated foliage quite often will elevate a dark corner of the garden. So if you position them correctly, they will really work hard for you, and they will still look really good in the summer as well, but at this time of year they really come into their own. So yeah, sorry for it being a little bit dark here. It is heading towards 4 o'clock and it will be dark soon, but I just wanted to get a video out just to show you guys how the evergreen look is looking at this time of year. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and you will get all the latest updates on my tropical style garden here in Hampshire. And I do videos basically of the front and back of my garden. We've got slightly different themes going on and slightly different shaped gardens as well. And I always offer help and advice, especially to people who are trying to get into this style of gardening for the first time. And I also try and add little things about the weather, what the weather's doing down here in Hampshire, and the sort of frost temperatures that we've had. And because a lot of the plants that I'm growing here, I do have a few quite rare plants, and it's always useful to explain just how the weather is affecting those, because that can be really useful advice for other people in other parts of the country. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe as always, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.